Hi, my name is Jeff Pete. I'm the Manager of GIS and IT at the Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority. The Lake Simcoe Region Conservation Authority, or LSRCA, uses science and technology to profile structures that would be vulnerable in a storm event. However, the ultimate proactive measure to protect people and property in relation to potential floods, for example, is to avoid having the structures in the identified flood vulnerable areas in the first place. This is where LSRCA regulation comes into play. Section 28 of the Conservation Authorities Act allows a conservation authority, subject to approval by the Ministry of Natural Resources, to make regulations applicable to the areas under its jurisdiction. For the LSRCA, there is an Ontario regulation in place which is referred to as 17906, and this regulation ties together a number of component categories, of which flooding is just one. So what is regulated? The components protected under the regulation are as follows. Wetlands are one of the regulated components. A wetland is an area of land consisting of soil that is saturated with moisture, such as a swamp, marsh, or bog. Another regulated component is floodplain, including shoreline hazard areas. A floodplain is land adjacent to a lake, stream, or river that experiences occasional or periodic flooding. A meander belt is a third component of the regulated area. Watercourses are living systems that will move over the course of time. The meander belt is an estimation of the outer limits within which this movement may occur. The final component that is regulated is rivers and stream valleys. This component deals with the erosion of river and stream banks. Over time, it poses a potential risk to nearby structures and to natural habitat. The regulation limit is defined as the greatest extent of all of these components combined. One of the challenges is to take this complex set of components and demonstrate it in a manner that provides a simple and clear understanding of whether or not areas are in fact regulated. Traditionally, information regarding the regulation was only available in hard copy maps. In the last year, several authorities have developed web-based access to the static maps. This allowed remote access to the maps in their basic static form. I'm pleased to be able to demonstrate for you right now the next stage in the evolution of access to regulation information within the Lake Simcoe watershed. Imagine for a moment, if you will, that you're a chief building official within a municipality. A landowner comes in to inquire about his plan to put up a building on his property and wants to obtain a building permit. As part of the process, the chief building official needs to determine whether or not the property is regulated under Ontario Regulation 17906. Traditionally, the chief building official would refer to the hard copy map provided by the LSRCA. Although this approach has been used for many years, there are some efficiency and effectiveness drawbacks. Technology and the web have made it possible for us to improve both the effectiveness and the efficiency of this process. The demonstration I'm about to show you is our latest web-based interactive mapping initiative, a leading-edge application among conservation authorities in Ontario. Instead of looking at a paper map, the chief building official will go to the interactive mapping application, which you can see on the screen, residing on the LSRCA website. The chief building official will put in an address, which locates the property and zooms to the target area. I'm going to profile two sample properties for the purpose of illustration. The first example shows a rural property within Brock Township that contains a regulated wetland. I'd like to explain the various colors on the screen. The property in question is highlighted in blue. Yellow represents the total regulated area. Red lines represent the regulated boundary. Blue lines represent the watercourse, which is essentially the rivers and streams. Purple thin lines represent the property boundaries. The base of the mapping is represented by our current air photos. Let's look at another example focusing on an urban property that resides within the regulated floodplain in the town of Newmarket. In this example, the sample property, which is in the middle of the screen, is highlighted in blue. We can also see in this situation there is no significant development in the yellow regulated area, yet the property in question is partially regulated. As you can see in these examples, the interactive mapping tool enables a chief building official to determine instantly that both properties are within the regulated areas, and that an LSRCA permit is required before any work can be initiated. There are also many other features of this interactive application that allow the user to customize the information displayed to meet their particular need and to print the maps they create. Who are some of the other clients that might use this application? Well, those might include private landowners, real estate agents, developers, municipal planners, provincial staff, lawyers. Essentially anyone with an internet-enabled computer can access this service from wherever they are. Although this application does not replace the need to talk to one of our client service representatives if a permit is required, it does make the front end of the process much simpler and confirms very quickly and easily whether or not a property is regulated. Interactive mapping is just one example of how GIS services at LSRCA are combining leading-edge science, research, and technology to provide quality customer service, informed decisions, and work smarter, not harder, together. In summary, GIS innovation at LSRCA starts with a foundation of good, solid, reliable data. That data is then organized into meaningful information, and the information is then used to support various analysis and modeling, which culminates ultimately in the ability to support well-informed, evidence-based decisions. Please visit the LSRCA website or camaps.ca to start exploring your flood vulnerable areas today.